All right, let's talk about analyzing research. We're going to build a toolkit today, one that's going to help you spot bad data and, well, flawed research from a mile away. This is super important stuff, especially for your upcoming Unit 4 Quiz 2, so let's just dive right in.
So let me ask you this. When you're scrolling online and you see some stat, maybe about sports or who's winning in a poll, how do you really know if it's giving you the whole picture? It sounds like a simple question, right? But the answer, it's a lot deeper than you'd think. And that's exactly what we're going to get into today.
Okay, so where do we even begin with all this? Well, we start with the basics. Before you can really trust any finding or conclusion, you've got to understand the process behind it. So let's take a look at how good research is supposed to be reported. And listen, this right here, this is the absolute key to everything. It's not just about what they found. It's not the big flashy headline number. The real story, the part that tells you if you can actually trust the data, is hidden in how they found it. I'm going to say that again. The how is everything. So, to figure out that how, we're going to need some tools. And I've got the perfect thing, a 4-question toolkit. Think of it as a set of 4 essential questions you can use to pick apart any piece of research you find. All right, here they are, your 4 critical questions. Number 1, why did they choose this method? Number 2, what was the focus of the data collection? 3, was the sampling method truly random? And number 4, were the survey questions unbiased? Let's break each one down so you know exactly what to look for. Okay, first up, why this method? You see, researchers have a bunch of options. They might choose a survey, for example, because it's fast and you can reach a ton of people. And hey, being anonymous can make people a little more honest, right? The point here isn't to say one method is good or bad, but to really understand why they picked the one they did. All right, question 2. What's the focus? Good research has a very specific target. It's not just, throwing a net out into the ocean to see what you catch. For example, a study might want to compare transportation costs for 2 very specific groups, commuters who travel under 25 miles and those who travel over 25 miles. See how specific that is? That sharp focus is what gets you results that actually mean something.
Okay, now for a really big one. Question 3, was it random? And this, folks, is absolutely crucial. True random sampling means every single person in the group you're studying has an equal chance of getting picked. This is where so much research just falls apart. Picking names from a phone book might feel random, but what about people who only have a cell phone or no phone at all? They're left out. Same with surveying at a train station. You're only talking to people who take the train. These are classic examples of sampling bias.
And finally, question 4. Were the questions unbiased? Oh man, the way you ask a question can totally change the answer you get. Think about it. If I ask you about your monthly transportation costs, but I only list gas and car maintenance as options, and I forget to include bus pass or train tickets, I've just biased my own survey. I've made public transit look cheaper than it really is just by how I asked the question. And just like that, you're not getting the real story.
All right, toolkit is ready to go. Now let's actually use it. We're going to put it to the test with our first case study, which is all about student snacks.
So here's the deal. The people who ran the survey, they talked to every single 9th and 10th grade student, and they were feeling pretty good about their work. They basically said, the only possible problem here is maybe some word alignment on the page. Let's see if our 4-question toolkit agrees with that. What do you think? So, let's start with question 3 from our toolkit. Was this sampling method truly random? Just think for a second about what we just covered. What does random really mean?
Okay, let's break this down. The survey's claim was, hey, it's random because we asked everyone. But the reality is a little different. See, surveying every single 9th and 10th grader is awesome, but that's what we call a census of that specific group. It is not a random sample of, say, the entire high school population. It was chosen for convenience, so the results can only tell you about 9th and 10th graders. That's it.
Okay, so we've established the sampling wasn't random. But what about our other questions? The researchers thought they were in the clear, except for that one tiny thing. Did they miss any other sources of bias? I bet you can spot some.
Oh, for sure. They missed a couple of huge ones. First, there's a grade-level bias. They only asked 9th and 10th graders. What about the juniors and seniors? Their tastes are completely ignored. And second, and this one is a real doozy, there's a limited choice bias. Students could only pick fresh fruit or pizza. That's it. What if your favorite snack is, I don't know, chips or yogurt? By only giving 2 options, they basically force the results.
See? You're getting the hang of this. It's like being a detective.
Now, let's try our toolkit on something a little trickier. Our next case study is a survey about the most popular NFL teams in Texas.
So get this. Here's how they did it. They said, we asked people at bus stations who looked friendly and not in a hurry. We don't see any place for bias to have entered into our survey. Wow, they sound pretty sure of themselves, don't they? But should they be?
Let's run it through our toolkit. First question that pops to mind. Was this sampling method random at all?
Ha, not even a little bit. This is like a textbook example of what not to do. Let's just list the problems here. 1. Location bias. You're only at bus stations. What about people who drive? 2. Selection bias. You're only asking people who look friendly. What does that even mean? And 3. Time bias. You're only talking to people who aren't in a hurry. So the conclusion is obvious. Not every person in Texas had an equal shot of being in this survey, not by a long shot.
Okay, fantastic work. You are really starting to think like a critical researcher now. For this last part, let's get super practical and focus on how you're going to see this stuff on your quiz.
So on your quiz, you're probably going to see a data table that looks something like this one from our snack survey. And yeah, you'll need to spot the biases we've been talking about, but you're also going to have to crunch some of the numbers yourself.
For example, a question could ask you, what was the average monthly spending on fresh fruit for all the students who chose it? The answer, as you can see, is $19.25. But the important part is, how do we actually get there?
Let's walk through it together. It's just 4 simple steps. First, we figure out the total spent by the 9th graders. That's 3 students, and they each spent an average of $18. So 3 times 18 is $54. Got it? Okay, step 2. Do the same thing for 10th grade. We have 1 student who spent $23. Easy enough? Step 3, we add those 2 totals together. So 54 plus 23 gives us $77. And for the final step, we divide that total amount, $77, by the total number of students who chose fruit, which was 4 students in total. 77 divided by 4, and there it is, $19.25. Definitely make sure you're comfortable doing a calculation just like that.
And there you have it. We've built our toolkit, we've put it to the test, and we've even done the math you'll need for your quiz. You are officially ready to look past the headlines and start questioning the data for yourself. So that really only leaves one final question for you. Now that you have these tools, what information will you question next? The world is just full of data, and now you know how to be a smart, critical consumer of it all. Good luck on that quiz. You've got this.